What's up, guys? It's been a long time since I've made a video, but I've been going to Mystery Monday movie screenings at my local Regal Theater, and I finally caught a really good one that I want to talk about. So let me know if you guys like this format, if you want me to do an early review without spoilers, with spoilers, maybe something in between. I was lucky enough to watch Talk to Me today, and I was not prepared for how compelling, well-written, and effective this was from, I think it's two twin brothers on their directorial debut. At least that's what they said in a little pre-screening teaser. Seemed like pretty nice guys, pretty genuine guys. Wasn't sure if by looking at them you would guess they're the type to direct a movie like this, because it's pretty heavy-handed, but also very grounded and realistic, and they seem to be very in touch with young Zoomer millennial culture. Okay, I just looked it up, and that's definitely humbling. These guys are a couple years younger than me, not to out myself, but they're only 30 years old, and they're putting out stuff like this. All I can say right off the bat before getting into the meat of this movie is that I hope they get bigger budgets, more attention, and I actually want to see a franchise out of this, and we'll talk about why. If you've seen the trailer, you'll know what the main premise is of this movie. There's some sort of mannequin, ceramic hand that has all this graffiti on it, but apparently it's a hand that you grab, you kind of make a handshake with, and you say, "Talk to me," and then a connection's been established between a random spirit, a random dead person, and they're there in the room in all their convincing makeup gore. It's pretty effective the first couple times you see it. It's definitely chilling, and what these directors do well is they don't harp on like seeing dead people as a jump scare payoff that you get sick of. They kind of show you what these people are seeing at the beginning a couple of times to freak you out, get under your skin, and then they do what most good horror and thriller directors do, is they leave a lot up to the imagination, which I think works really well in this movie. The main story follows around this young woman named Mia, who recently had a loss in the family. Her mom passed away, and her dad and her are grieving, and she's kind of looking for friends to hang out with and get out of her shell a little bit, because she's kind of weird. And as she mentions at one point in the movie, she self-describes herself as weird at a little kickback towards the beginning of the movie. She's grown really close with a family, her best friend Jade being their oldest daughter, and she has a younger brother named Riley, who she also is pretty close with, like an older sister. But eventually, the youngsters all find themselves at this kickback in order to, let's say, impress their peers or get along on the newest viral trend, which seems to be people sharing Snapchat or whatever app video recordings of whatever Ouija board game they're playing, whatever they're up to. Jade thinks it's a complete joke. She's like, okay, I want to come over and see how these videos are being faked. So that's her excuse for being there, and she drags along Mia and her young brother Riley. And then while there, it doesn't take too long at all to show that there's some real stuff happening there. In an attempt to impress them, Mia volunteers to go first. So she puts her hand there, she says the "talk to me" thing, and if you've seen the trailer, you know what follows next. But what I didn't expect was the writing to be actually very coherent in terms of character arcs, setups, and payoffs. The relationship between Mia and Jade, it already has some cracks in it at the beginning, when it's established that Jade's current boyfriend, Daniel, was also Mia's ex-boyfriend back in the day, but all they ever did was hold hands. But maybe they were too young to really see that relationship flourish, so they, for whatever reason, it ends, as young relationships do. And so there's already a point of contention there that's not addressed too early on in the movie. It's kind of left to brew. And upon touching the hand, mild spoiler alert, it was in the trailer, she ends up seeing a spirit. And she's terrified at first, but the hosts kind of reassure her everything's going to be okay. Say the next line, which is, "I let you in." And once you say that second phrase, that's when the full-on possession occurs. And the eyes, dilate, nothing but pupil, a little bit of whites. Heavy, but also really convincing makeup around the eyes and mouth and nose. It's really disturbing, but the kids just kind of seem to be laughing in morbid curiosity and fun. Maybe they're kind of laughing off their fear in order to seem cool. They all got their phones out and they're just a part of the crowd. It really captures the digital age really well in these kids that just go to parties and they want to record the disaster happening in front of them, as opposed to, ask deep questions about it or try to help. When the possession ends, as it inevitably does after 90 seconds, they establishes the cutoff between when you need to disconnect, let go of the grip with the ceramic hand, because anything longer than 90 seconds would be no bueno. That's when the spirit has more control and maybe a long-term possession over its subject. They assume that anything under 90 seconds, you're in the clear, but we soon find out that Mia and some others have had lingering hauntings. Then she comes back and she says it felt awesome. She likened it to a feeling of euphoria glowing. She was in the passenger seat while someone was taking control of her body. And that's where the immediate or initial dissonance for me occurred, when it's clearly disturbing to see her under, being possessed. But she comes out of it and says it was amazing, and it's really kind of leaves this eerie tone in the back of your head as you're watching the rest of the movie go on. Because there was nothing amazing about it to the audience's perspective. It does not look fun. It sets up a great premise, end of a great first act. And as their curiosity about this demonic hand grows, they ask questions about it, and it's spoilers. We're going to get into mild spoilers now. It's established that the hand is actually a human hand. It's a severed hand of an old medium who claimed to have connections with the dead, being able to make contact with them. And then there's kind of like another story out there that says maybe it was an ex-Satanist hand who performed rituals and was able to get in contact with the dead. So it's kind of ambiguous, Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it euphoric? Are they lying when they come back to their bodies in order to entice more innocent people to cross this bridge, per se, into another realm where you might not be able to come back from? Eventually, Riley, the younger brother, finds himself genuinely curious, and he wants to try it out himself. But of course, older sister has to say no. In fact, she doesn't partake. She's the only one in the group that doesn't do it. She doesn't care. She's just kind of hanging out, babysitting her younger brother, watching over her friend come out of her shell, and wants to debunk the whole thing. So she's kind of the audience. She's kind of the stand-in for us watching the entire thing, the rational one who's kind of thrown in the midst of all this stuff. And then soon the main theme of the title starts to bear its fruits, where Mia starts thinking a little bit more about her mom's death and how did she die? She was told she took too many sleeping pills on accident. Was it really an accident? Was it suicide? What is her dad hiding from her? They don't really communicate. They're distant. And so the title isn't just the main phrase you say when you're trying to summon a spirit. It shows Mia's internal struggle to want to talk to her mom and ask her questions. For anyone that's ever had to deal with suicide or a death in the family, I'm sure they can relate on a very personal level. And it's rare that some demon possession movies take that route and make it feel realistic at the same time. None of this, the acting feels real the entire way through. It's very convincing. Everyone's great. The fact that there's no major stars makes it even better. It's filmed all in Australia on an indie Australian budget, produced by A24, who's putting out great work consistently. But it all culminates in one climax where Riley, the young boy, he does the ritual at the behest of his older sister, who has left the room because of the love triangle that I mentioned earlier, without getting into heavy spoilers. And he is unable to come back early enough because Mia believes that he's actually being possessed by her deceased mom. He starts crying, makes eye contact with her, tells her, "I'm sorry, I never meant to hurt you." And she's so engulfed in this experience that she doesn't disconnect the handshake. I mean, think about it. Would you, if you had only 90 seconds to talk to a family member, would you maybe go a couple seconds over? It's possible. She's not like the villain or the antagonist of the story, but her decision-making, her selfish decisions, cause huge destruction and horrifying repercussions in its wake. And it's one of the more devastating, disturbing, horrifying scenes I've seen on screen in a long time. I'm not going to get into it too much, but it's worth a watch. It had me just disturbed. My heart was racing. I was like covering my face with one of my hands. And then it becomes Mia's personal mission to salvage what she can of the situation. And she's battling voices and demons that she still sees after the rituals have long ended, which shouldn't be happening. So something clearly has clung on to her. And maybe it's, the recent death in the family. If a demonic spirit does find its way into your presence and it senses you hurt and wounded, it can latch on to you. I mean, I'm not sure if this is real, but some people believe in demons. I'm not one to say I don't for sure. But if demons are real, that makes perfect sense that they do that. They really do attach themselves to people that are vulnerable, depressed, just hurt. And Mia's that person. But she's masking it with over-the-top sociability that she's not really. She's pretending to be someone she's not until she gets too deep into it, and now she has to figure out for herself what happened to her mom, how to save her best friend's brother, and potentially not make anything worse, because things just get worse and worse for Mia. And the very end of the movie was the last scene, the last couple shots was very well done. Now that I thought about it in the theater as everyone was leaving, because it didn't click right away what happened. The directors didn't make it extremely obvious. It's kind of up for interpretation until the very end, which is a great ending, fantastic ending. I'm not going to spoil it. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it there. You need to see this movie when it comes out. Support these directors. I think they might be the new Ari Aster. I get Hereditary vibes here. I really do. And I really want to see this turn into a franchise, because this hand can get passed down between groups and groups of people who know more about demonic possession than others, and it can really shine a light on tragedy, loss, human relationships, curiosity, spirits, angels, and demons. It has a lot of potential to do some great things, and I'm impressed that just a simple concept of a stupid ceramic hand can actually work. It's like just knowing there's an actual human hand in there. You never see it, but someone tells them at one point. One of the organizers of the ritual says there's a human hand in here, but it's never cracked open. You never see the hand. You don't know how much of it's in their head. Placebo, although clearly it's not all of it is, because it's very consistent in its effect. But this is something that is well worth checking out. If you have a love for horror movies, if you love A24 and indies, if you really want to feel disturbed and are left kind of with an unsettling feeling afterwards, which I love. If a movie can actually do that to me, a cinephile who's seen thousands of movies, who went to film school, then it can do it for you too. So Talk to Me, right after seeing it, 9 out of 10. Like a very solid 9 out of 10. I just don't know if I can give any movie a 10 out of 10, but in this genre, in 2023, it might even be a 10 out of 10. So let's go with 9, just to be safe, because it might sour in my mouth as it ages and I watch it some more. But man, I'm so impressed with this movie. I loved it. Had a great time. Nothing was boring. Pacing was great. Wasn't too short. That left me wanting more, and it wasn't too long. That made me bored. Soundtrack, I don't remember it being too much there. It didn't bombard me with music to make me feel like I'm supposed to be scared. It was just... Actually, you know what? Speaking of sound design, I do remember specifically the use of an underwater sort of gargling effect. Like you're kind of getting lost in the midst of your subconscious. And it kind of reminded me of that scene in Get Out, where the boyfriend is kind of hypnotized by the mom and he just falls into the depths of his subconscious. It kind of reminded me of that in terms of its sound design. It really digs deep. It really makes you kind of go into uncomfortable places that you don't want to see, and kind of see how people might react to terrifying things and how things can flip on a dime. You know, one moment you're hanging out with friends laughing, the next moment there's life-threatening injuries. You know, there's police on the scene. The deaths start compounding like dominoes. Not saying that's exactly what happens in this movie, but there's that sense of point of no return, and you kind of give up on a happy ending, but you want it to be there. And this movie walks that line and gives you both, like good and bad, bittersweet, like a really solid horror movie would be. Just feels really well thought out from these young directors. Again, I'll shut up about it. Go see Talk to Me. Good stuff. When it comes out, boom. If you guys like me doing these early release Monday mystery movie reviews, most of them I've seen are pretty trash. I'd say like 80% of them have been pretty bad so far. I don't want to really talk about them, but this one I just felt like I had to say something. And hey, might get some views because it's not out yet and people might be curious. So let me know what you guys think. Appreciate you watching this long. Leave a comment, leave a recommendation. Still trying to grow. Thank you guys. See you next time.